Welcome, friends, to another inspiring episode of the Way Up Podcast, where we delve into journeys of remarkable individuals who have risen above challenges to reach new heights. I'm your host, Geoff Knoll, and today we have a very special guest joining us. Raised in Taccoa, Georgia by his devoted grandmother, our guest today, Jason Crumpler, knows a thing or two about resilience and determination. Despite the absence of his parents in his life, Jason refused to let his circumstances define him. Instead, he embraced his desire to shape his own destiny. What sets Jason apart is not just his upbringing, but his unwavering belief in the guiding hand of a higher power. He shares a perspective that every twist and turn in his life has been orchestrated by a force beyond his own understanding, leading him precisely where he needs to be, exactly when he needs to be there. Throughout our conversation, Jason will illuminate how his faith and a positive outlook have been instrumental in navigating life's challenges, transforming obstacles into opportunities, and propelling him forward on his journey. So join me as we delve into the inspiring story of Jason Crumpler, a testament to the power of resilience, faith, and unwavering determination on the Way Up Podcast. The Way Up Podcast is proudly brought to you by my real estate team, the Noble Team eXp Realty. We're redefining industry standards in the markets we operate, distinguishing ourselves from the crowd. We leverage our uniqueness to gain a strategic edge, all while elevating not only ourselves, but also those in our world, including our competitors. Join us on this journey. Your time and investment will undoubtedly be well placed. Hang with us till the end. I know you won't be disappointed. I'm really excited to be here with my new friend, Jason Crumpler. He's a drill sergeant at Fort Leonard Wood. He's in the U.S. Army. So thank you for coming on here today. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Feel good to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what brought you here.
Okay. So I was born in Taccoa, Georgia. It's a small town in northeast part of Georgia. I was raised by my grandma. My mom, she actually went to prison for 6.5 years for second-degree murder. So all my siblings, we all was kind of like displaced. I went to my biological grandma. My brother went to some friends of the family. And my sister, she actually went with her biological dad.
How old were you when that happened?
So this was in the early 90s. So I was a baby.
Yeah.
My first time seeing my mom was when I was going to the 7th grade. That was the first time, me meeting my mom.
Wow.
Yeah. So growing up, I always thought my grandma was my mom. But then as I grew older, you start questioning. And,
yeah, it's probably confusing when you're a kid and that's all you've known.
Right. When I would go to school, I start noticing, everyone with their families, like Mother's Day. And I'm like, well, why is my grandma, I start putting. So what they told me, though, was, oh, your mom was in school. That's what my family members would tell me. She was in school. So I'm like, okay, well, what kind of school they had you away for that long? But as I start growing up and, asking questions and figuring stuff out on my own, I figured out, that she was in prison.
Right.
So me and my brother, though, like I said, we grew up in the same town, but different households. So he went to a school called Eastern Ollie Elementary School, and I went to Taccoa Elementary School. So they're like two cities that's like close by each other. But me and my brother, we always hung out with each other on the weekends. They kept us.
You guys knew each other.
Yeah, we
as
knew
brothers.
each other. Yeah, my sister now, she was in Miami, so we would only see her when she would come up on the summers.
Okay.
And stuff like that. So that was pretty much my childhood. I had a great childhood. I grew up in the country. We was like on an animal farm. I had horses, cows.
That's awesome.
Dogs, whole 9 yards. I lived in Taccoa up until 2005. When I became around about like 10th or 9th grade, that's when I start trying to, be managed, trying to be out in the streets and stuff like that. So I was having some issues with grandma. So I was like, she wouldn't let me do what I wanted to do. So I was like, I'm going to go live with my dad in Miami. So I called my dad and he's like, yeah, you can come down here to Florida and move in with me. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to go live with my dad, enjoy my life in South Florida. So I told my grandma that, and she was like, okay, but she was kind of sad about it. So I withdrew from school and everything. So my grandma, she was like, since I'm leaving her, she was going to move to Atlanta, College Park, and with her daughters, because they just bought a house out there, because she didn't want to live by herself.
Right.
Right. So I withdrew from school. She sold the house that she was in. And I called my dad and I was like, hey, my grandma, she's moving. So just come pick me up in Atlanta, College Park instead of in Taccoa. So he was like, okay. So we sell the house. We move out there to College Park, and he never showed up.
He didn't come.
My dad never showed up to come get me. So I was stuck out there in College Park. So my last 2 years of high school, I finished out there in College Park, which is like 20 minutes from Atlanta. You know, we say Atlanta, but it's not Atlanta. It's
Sure.
Yeah. But so I finished my last 2 years of high school in College Park. Moving out there was a culture shock to me, because in Taccoa, it was predominantly a white town.
Okay.
So now I'm like around the city, and
Mhm.
everybody looks like me. Everybody's black.
Yeah.
So it took me a minute, believe it or not. I know that sounds crazy.
Was it a comfortable transition in? You said it was culture shock, but was it?
Yeah. So it was a good transition, because in the summers I would go out there and spend with my cousins. Okay. I moved in with my aunties, which is my grandma's daughter. So I was already used to the area, know, but as far as like living there and going to high school, it was completely like night and day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like night and day, but I loved it though, because it was something new and exciting. And it wasn't the country. It was like actually kind of like the city. So
sure,
there's a lot of stuff to do. So I finished my last 2 years of high school out there. I wanted to be a music producer. So that was my dream. So I tried to go to Full Sail, which is a music producer school in college. But that didn't work out. They had a $500 application fee. I asked my dad for the money, and he never sent it. So I ended up going to DeVry. All right, I'm telling my age now. So I went to DeVry University for computer engineering. I switched the whole thing up, and went there for like maybe 3 or 4 months, Geoff. And then I realized this was too much math. So I ended up dropping out of there, and I moved. I got me an apartment, and I went to Omnitech Institute. It was like one of those schools where it's like, get your degree in 6 months.
Oh yeah. No, I went to Pinnacle Career Institute, which I would have imagined is very similar to that.
Right. So I went there, and I realized I don't want to do this either. So
what were you studying there?
I think it was computer engineering as well. It was either audio production. No, it was computer engineering as well.
Okay.
It was computer engineering. And went there, and I realized I had night classes. So I was working the day, and then immediately when I get off, I would go right to school. And after a while, I was like, this is not it either. So I ended up dropping out of there too. So, but I didn't ever tell my grandma. So she was thinking I still was going to school, but I really would just leave the house and go to the park.
Yeah.
Stay there for like 3 or 4 hours to make it seem like I was in school, then come home.
Right.
So I went through that. Then through the midst of that, I end up finding God, because I got evicted from my house. I was going through a lot, you know, smoking, being out there in the street, smoking weed, doing all the crazy stuff, mismanaging my money.
Mm-hmm.
And I end up getting evicted. So I end up having to move back home. So, and through the midst of that, I found God. My one of my cousins, she was already heavily in the church. She came to me and she was like, Jason, you need to give it to God and all of this and all this. And I was like, okay, well, let me try God, because I'm trying to do it on my own and it's not working. So she invited me to her church. I go down to her church one weekend, and it's an experience I never had. I went up there for prayer, and then next thing you know, I left there speaking in tongues.
Wow.
Yeah. And then from there, that's when I would like to say, Geoff, my journey started. I started discovering who I am. So immediately after I had that spiritual experience, that's when I started like having visions and God speaking to me, and I'm having dreams, and all this weird supernatural stuff is happening to me. And I didn't know what was going on, but around that time, God brought a spiritual mentor into my life, and she was able to help me and guide me along the way. So from that point, that's when I started discovering who I am in God and trying to find out what my purpose is. So like I told you, I ended up dropping out of that school. So after all this had happened, that's when I told my grandma, I was like, look, Granny, just be honest with you, I dropped out like a month ago and I'm just trying to figure it out. So she was like, okay. So this is all around 2008. This is around about 2008, Jeff. So I'm working on my relationship with Christ now. I'm old Holy Ghost filled, on fire for Jesus. And I was just working from job to job, trying to figure out like what was my purpose. So I worked at a fish market. I was working at a gas station. I worked at the bank. I was doing a lot. And my last job I had, I was working at the Ford dealership. This is around about 2011 now, 2012. Yeah. So from 2008, 2011, I was working job to jobs. So around, it was 2012, I had got laid off from my job working at Ford. And Jeff, I didn't know what my next move was because I wasn't happy with my living situation. And I'm in the house with like 7 females, you know what I'm saying? My aunts, my cousins, and my grandma, they was all getting on my nerves.
That sounds stressful.
It was a lot of drama.
Yeah.
A lot of drama. And you know, all I have is me. I don't have my dad at this point to call on because he's in and out. Mm-hmm. And then my mom, she's out of prison now, like I said, but she's trying to figure out her own life.
Right.
So whatever my next move is, it has to be the right move, Joe. So that's when, you know, I did a lot of prayer and stuff like that. And one night I had this dream. And in the dream, I saw myself driving. I was in the military. I was driving trucks and I was jumping out of airplanes. So when I woke up from it, I knew the dream was from God because, like I told you, He speaks to me in dreams and in visions and stuff. So I never discard my dream. So all my listeners out there, always pay attention to your dreams.
Yeah.
Okay. Always pay attention to your dreams because that's one of the way God speaks. It's how He spoke to His prophets in the Bible. So I kind of dismissed it though. I put it on the shelf, and then I get a phone call maybe like a month later, and it was an ex-girlfriend of mine. And she called me. We were just catching up, and she was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I've been thinking about joining the military." This is what she told me. So when she said that, the dream popped back in my head, and I just had this epiphany. I'm like, "Oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing." So, but I didn't know what branch. So I went to. I said I was going to do the Navy. I was going to join the Navy because I love their uniforms. The blue. Blue is my favorite color. But I never had enough gas money to get over there. So that didn't work out. I tried the Air Force, and they wanted my credit to be immaculate, and it wasn't at the time, so they didn't want me. So I said, okay, I'm going to try the Army. Well, that night, I went to sleep, had another dream, and I was in some type of office, and I was talking to this lady. I don't know what we was talking about, but we was talking to a lady. And I woke up from the dream. I go to the Army recruiter, and it was the same lady in my dream. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. So she asked me what I wanted to do. I said, I want to drive trucks because in the dream I had, I was driving vehicles. And so she got on her computer, she looked it up, and she was like, well, there's no truck driving jobs available, which is an 88 Mike in the Army, is a truck driver. So she started offering me other jobs. And I told her, I don't want no other job. I want to be driving trucks because I knew that's what I was supposed to be doing. So she said that she would call me back at a later time when there was something available. So about a week later, she calls me back. And she said, Mr. Crumpler, I got good news. And I said, what? She said, I have that truck driving job available, but it's one thing. I said, what? She said, there's airborne attached to the contract. I said, what's airborne? She said, airborne means you'll be jumping out of planes, just like in the dream.
Yeah.
I said, I want it. So signed the contract for the Army. And like 6 months later, I shipped out the basic training. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. That's where I did my basic training. I completed basic training. I completed right after basic training. I came here to Fort Leonard Wood for my AIT to learn my job, which is truck driving. And then after that, I went back to Fort Benning. That's where I completed my airborne school. Right. So
Had you jumped out of an airplane prior to being in the Army?
no, I always wanted to skydive.
Yeah.
So this was my closest thing to skydiving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my first duty station, I was at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. So I served there for 3 years in the 82nd Airborne, driving trucks. For 3 years. I enjoyed that. And then after I completed my tour there, I PCS to Hawaii. I did 3 years there in Hawaii on the island of Oahu. Did time there for 3 years. And then after Hawaii, I went to Fort Hood. I was in Texas.
How'd you like that?
Pure hell.
That's the general consensus that I hear from most everybody, that Hood is rough.
Yeah. So the issue at Hood, Geoff, was that it was a lot going on. I was there when the stuff about Vanessa Ging, that soldier who died, I don't know if you heard about that. It was all in the media. I was there. So it was a lot of deaths on Fort Hood. That was just the only one that really made the media. But we had one in my company. And it was just the tempo. We was always working, not a lot of downtime. And then we end up deploying thinking that we was going to get away from the chaos. But when we went to Kuwait, I went to Kuwait, all those issues followed us there in Kuwait. So I was ready to get up out of Fort Hood. So while I was in Kuwait, though, that's when I came down on drill sergeant orders to become a drill sergeant. So when we came back from Kuwait, that's when I went to drill sergeant school, which is in Fort Jackson. And I did, 9 weeks there at drill sergeant school. And then once I completed drill sergeant school, came here to Fort Leonard Wood as a drill sergeant, in 58 Transportation Battalion.
So of all of the stations you've been, where have you liked the most? I'm imagining it would be Hawaii.
Hawaii, I would say Hawaii.
Yeah.
The work tempo was high, but as far as like location, it was beautiful. Yeah. I loved Hawaii. I skydived there. I swim with the sharks. I did a lot of outdoor stuff like that. But yeah, as far as like location, I would say Hawaii was pretty much the best location.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much there.
So do you feel like you're fulfilled in what you're doing in the Army? You're drill sergeant, so you're not driving at the moment, but is this part of something that are you enjoying this chapter of life?
Yeah. So I've always ran from the drill sergeant. I always had that spoken over me because there was just nothing I wanted to do. My heart's desire was to go special operations. I always wanted to do that. But how the cards play for me, I just haven't gotten over to that side yet. So when the drill sergeant came along, I was kind of disgruntled at the beginning. But once I actually got here and saw like the impact that I was having on the soldiers, I was like, okay, God got me. This is where I'm supposed to be. Because we getting these soldiers in straight from home, straight off the streets, from wherever they come from. And a lot of these soldiers, Geoff, that I realized that, they come from fatherless home or motherless homes, no guidance. You know what I'm saying? They're young adults. They don't know left from right. And they end up looking at the drill sergeants like their parents. So like some of the guys, they didn't even know how to shave. I was teaching them how to shave. So having that impact, it really made my job fulfilling. And it made me realize, okay, God got me. This is where I'm supposed to be. And then the best part about it, Geoff, was that when they leave, because I'm thinking I'm hated, because I'm one of those drill sergeants where I'm bringing the wrath of God on you, right? If need be. But the best part of it, Geoff, is when those soldiers leave. Well, two things: family day, when graduation day and family day, when they come up to you and say, "Thank you, Drill Sergeant Crumpler. I appreciate you for X, Y, and Z. Thank you for being a role model." And it'd be a shock to me because in my mind, I'm like, these soldiers are not picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah.
And they're not getting it. So to have that feedback, and then even when they leave, they'll email me and say, "I miss you, Drill Sergeant. This and da. Thank you for X, Y, Z." So that was the most like the beautiful thing about being a drill sergeant is the impact you have on the soldiers. So they look at you like a god, basically.
Yeah.
So that was the best part.
There's a lot that goes into your job as a drill sergeant. You can't like eat in front of your soldiers. You can't drink in front of your soldiers. You have a lot of there's a lot to that, to them feeling that is you guys kind of have to be superhumans.
You have to. Yeah. No mistakes, no errors. Everything has to be, as we say in the military, dress right, meaning perfect, so, which is hard to do because, we're all imperfect. We make mistakes.
Yeah, everybody.
But in front of them soldiers, everything got to be to a T.
So how long have you been in that role as a drill sergeant?
For 2 years.
2 years. Yeah. How much longer are you?
I just finished today.
You just finished today.
Yeah.
Today is the last day. And you said you're getting ready to go.
I'm going, my next assignment is in Turkey now.
Turkey.
Yeah.
How long is that?
It's a year assignment.
Are you excited?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get out of the country, experience new cultures, see new stuff. So yeah.
Get to see the world.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have had any idea, being the kid growing up in Georgia, in your grandma's house, that you would get to experience the different things that you have in your life?
No. And the reason why, Geoff, is because growing up, especially once I hit my young adulthood, like early 20s, I was always felt stuck. Like I always went from job to job to job to job. And I could never really keep money in my pocket. And I just always thought that I was going to be I could never get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it wasn't until I really got saved, and found God and found out who I was, that's when things start to take a change. Now, it didn't happen immediately. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But once I found out my purpose, especially when God revealed to me that I'm supposed to be in the military, that's when I can really say that my life started. Because even now, like me being a drill sergeant, that was purpose. I was supposed to come here. Mm-hmm. I'm supposed to be here in this moment with you.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful because I know that my footsteps are ordered and I'm where I'm supposed to be.
I feel that what you're saying resonates with me a lot. You always think whenever you're in your situation, you're walking in your shoes, that other people have it different, mm-hmm. that they are, they don't have to struggle because you don't see it. You see other people, your friends, driving nice cars and moving into nicer houses than you. And, right. And you're comparing your life to theirs and you don't see the struggles that they actually have. I was that way. I was like, man, this sucks. And I grew up in a Christian home. My dad was a preacher, mm-hmm. and I wish I would have just had everything. And you didn't say that you have everything figured out, but your life started improving.
Right.
I went through all of my jobs as a young adult, whatever, and I struggled all the time. Like, mm-hmm. I never really learned how to manage my finances. Maybe not because my parents didn't try. They just were figuring it out on their own. They were still figuring it out themselves on how to do this and try to get ahead. But I felt like the harder I'd work, I'd go put in a bunch of overtime. I did asphalt for 10 years. I'd mm-hmm. put in overtime and somehow I was still broke. I'm like, why am I broke? It's not like I have a Corvette in my driveway. I don't have super nice stuff. I'm just driving a beater car and I'm broke somehow. This sucks. And knowing that you have a different future. This is not who I am. This moment that I'm struggling and I am, feeling like I'm less than other people. That's not who I am.
Right.
I have this identity. And whenever you were able to identify that I want to be in the military, I want to have this future, you started working towards that. You started elevating yourself. I'm sure it probably motivated you getting up, and you probably started working out a little bit, going and running because you knew you were going to go to basic training and right. You want to be prepared for that. But was any of that transition, whenever you started to identify, hey, this is what I want to do, what all did you start doing? And was there anything that was kind of a catalyst that kind of got you excited and motivated?
So you actually just hit something on the head when you said that I started working out. So let me tell you, and that's the thing about it. When your purpose and when God is really ordering your footsteps, you will just end up walking into your destiny or your purpose. So this is what I didn't know though. So I used to be a little way heavier than what I am now. Like I used to be really, really big. So my last job that I had, right? I told you I worked for Ford, and now I've already had that dream that I was driving trucks and I was in the military, right? So now I'm still working for Ford at the time I had that dream, and I dismissed the dream because I'm like, military, I'll never join the military. Now that was something friends always told me to do, but it was just never me, right? So, well, at least I thought. So I was still working at Ford at that time. And once I lost my job at Ford, I was like, okay, I need to get back in shape because I was getting big, right? I worked out. I used to work at a fitness center before. So working out was something, it wasn't nothing new or foreign to me. But I had kind of fell off from going to because I used to work at the gym, but I had fell off going because I was working at Ford. I had got a new job. So once I lost my job at Ford, I just had this really, really strong desire to get back in the gym, and I needed to lose some weight. So I lost my job at Ford, and I started going through the gym. I ended up meeting a personal trainer through a friend of mine, through not a friend, but my cousin was dating this personal trainer. So I was like, hey, can you ask your friend, your boyfriend to train me? And he was training me for free.
Nice.
So I wasn't working anymore. So I'm like, okay, at least I can go to the gym and get back in shape. Not knowing God was using that situation for me to shed pounds so I can join the military. Because at that time, if I would have joined the military, they wouldn't have took me because I was too big.
Right.
So working out with him, I ended up losing like 25 pounds. So when I joined the military and went to MEPS, that's like the military in processing place. They told me, they was like, you just barely made the cutoff because of your weight. Yeah, my weight and from my height, which was 190 at the time. And I was like, when I thought back, I'm like, God had this orchestrated this whole time.
Yeah.
That's why I was into the gym, not knowing that I would end up going to the military.
It's also why you lost your job at Ford that didn't motivate you to work out. You didn't need to. You were happy with what you were doing.
Right. So just getting in shape, prepping me for that transition, which I didn't even really know. I don't know, man. It's just God will put you in situations and have you in preparation for stuff that you don't even know that you're being prepared for. Like even with this moment right here, like this, I feel like this was destined. This was purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's my time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To speak about my experiences.
Sure.
Not knowing that this day was going to, would come.
Right.
But yeah, man, that's.
Well, and you've had a couple weeks to think about it since we met in the sauna when I was wearing nothing but a towel. This is but I said in another, I actually just recorded another podcast before this, but I told the guy I was talking to, before my feet hit the ground in the morning, I will say, thank you, God, for the opportunities for today. Thank you for the connections and the people that I'm going to meet, because you never know who you are going to meet in your day.
Right.
What friendships, what business deals. You could be my next $1 million. You could change my life. You could change my life. I could change your life. Something positive comes from all of the interactions that we have with people. So I'm very open and keen to that. I go out of my way to talk to strangers. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's because other people enrich my life. Learning from people enriches my life. I started this podcast so I could learn from what has set you up for success. And I haven't asked you that question yet. So if you, looking back over your life, what is something that you can identify? And I'm sure there's more than one, but what is something that you can identify that's really set you up to be successful in your life?
I would say would be first knowing what you're called to do or to be, right? So like I said, and I always go back to God, but once you find out who you are in him and what you're called to be, that's where it starts. So I was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is where I'm supposed to be. Let me start working towards it. So every assignment, Geoff, though, like I say, I have my little dreams or whatever, but every assignment, he speaks to me and shows me what I'm doing next. He showed me where I was going to Hawaii. He showed me coming here. He showed me going to Turkey. He ain't showing where I'm going next though.
Right.
But after Turkey, but it's coming.
And part of that, the other side of the not knowing what's ahead, that's kind of exciting too. It's scary not knowing what is in your future, but whenever you can look back over your life and say, this is a time that God carried me through this. Because you talking about your childhood, not that the childhood sucks, but that's rough. Yeah. Mom's in prison, dad's not part of your life, not really. You know, there's a lot of disconnect there, and your story could have ended a whole lot differently. Right. And I think a lot of kids that grow up in that environment, you know, grandma's praying hard, burning the midnight oil, yeah, trying to keep the kids in, but it doesn't always play out that way. So the fact that you wanted to elevate yourself out of the situation, you wanted to get something different in your life.
Yeah, I definitely didn't want to become a product of my environment.
Right.
And I always saw myself, you know, greater. You know, I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I always just knew, like, I was never complacent. I always was trying to figure out the next move. And with me, I didn't grow up in the church. You know, all my family, they believe in God and stuff like that, but no one was like no Bible thumper or was on the same type of time I was after I got saved. So I literally, you know, had to figure it all out on my own. And once I found out who I was supposed to be, that's when, like I said, Geoff, that's when things started to make a turn. You know, I joined the military, you know, start doing all the things that I wanted to do. And that's when just everything, like life just started to, you know, I don't have all the pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still figuring it out as I go.
Yeah.
But I can't say I know who I am. I know who I am, and I know what my purpose is. While on this earth.
Do you have any dream beyond the Army? What?
Yes. So I do want to be a minister. You know,
yeah.
But I want to definitely going to be business owner, man. I want my own trucking company, real estate.
I love it, dude.
Definitely the real estate realm. I know I'm calling to that realm. But yeah, once I come back from Turkey, that's when I'm going to go ahead and, you know, buy me some property and start working on building my empire. So
yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, that is exciting. Is there any advice that you would give? You are talking to a kid growing up in Georgia, small town. He's living with his grandma, 10 years old. What do you tell this kid?
I would tell this kid to listen to your parents. I would tell this kid to make sure you have the right people around you. Right. As a child, you're going to make mistakes. That's how you learn life lessons. But have the right influences around you too. And keep God first in your life and pray and let him order your footsteps, and everything will work out on its own. Yeah. And that's pretty much it.
Even the stuff that sucks and feels like it isn't working for you. I can honestly look back. I've been through a divorce. I've had a number of unfortunate things happen in my life, and looking back at my life, I'm so grateful that everything happened the way that it did. I have an incredible son. I have all of those things shaped me into the person that I am, and gave me the perspective that I have, which is a very positive outlook on life. I think some people see whenever you have a very positive outlook, they say you've got your head in the sand and you're just not paying attention to reality, and they're being a realist by being pessimistic about everything. No, I want to be optimistic. I want to believe that there is good to come from it, because I can look through the bad things that I've gone through in my life and know that it will come together. It may not be what I planned on. Chances are it won't be. It doesn't have to be exactly what I think it's going to look like. It's going to work together for good.
Right. Always does. Always end up working together for you. Oh, I also would tell them too, join the military. It made me the man I am today. You know what?
I hear a flip side, but being in this market and working here with military members, I can see a lot of guys came up out of difficult situations where they, like you said, they didn't know how to shave. They didn't have the parental figures to teach them. And they learn structure, and they learn how to manage their money, and they learn how to do this. And they have some abilities and trying to think, benefits, like your VA home loan.
Right.
That is incredible. And it's something that a lot of people don't even realize they have access to.
Mm-hmm.
I know they go through and they tell you, you get crammed full of all of this information that you have access to while they're, you're taking in so much. You don't even know, you don't even know what's happening.
Right.
But you get through that. And, a lot of people think they can use it one time, or a lot of people don't even realize that they have VA eligibility. Right. You get in and you're like, no, you can buy a house. My brother-in-law didn't think he told me he didn't have VA eligibility. I was like, no, you served. Why would you not? Let's look. The worst thing they can do is say no. And he bought a house with a VA home loan. Like, becoming a homeowner was life-changing for him in that situation. So, there's a lot of great things for that. I would say the military has been instrumental in creating a lot of men.
Yes.
So
I would agree.
Dude, Jason, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. How can people follow up with you?
Yeah, so you can reach me. My email address is jasoncrumpler1@yahoo.com. And also my Facebook, you can follow me on Facebook, is Rashad Crumpler. It's a picture of me with a red shirt on. Rashad Crumpler. Again, my email is jasoncrumpler1@yahoo.com.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, Jason, appreciate it. Have a lovely day, man.
All right. Thank you, Geoff.
Yeah, boy.